the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast number 200.
Woo!
Big time. As you can tell by the woo there, Aaron Fintel's joining me again. We're going to, on this bicentennial edition of the Moving Iron Podcast, we're going to kind of break down 2020 and take a look at 21, what we see happening there, and go from there, buddy. So how you been, man?
I'm good. I'm a little disappointed you didn't tell everybody Ric Flair was on, though.
Yeah, I was going to go with that for a second, but I didn't know if you knew his whole, like
I could have said woo, and you could have went, there he is, there's the golden boy.
The nature boy.
Nature boy,
yeah.
There you go.
The Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing.
Fur coat.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And has his own 30 for 30.
He does. That's actually one of my favorite ones.
I know, I hear you. Him and the Boz.
Him and the Boz. Yeah, that was probably my favorite. And Bo Jackson. Those
and Bad
3.
Boys. You're not a basketball guy. So
yeah, I mean, I watched it and I enjoyed it, but Ric Flair, Bo Jackson, Brian Bosworth was my 3 30 for 30 best top 3 30 for 30s.
2 of those I'm very much on. Yeah.
I like Bo Jackson because I had to tell my son, I was like, you know why Bo Jackson ended his career? The guy ran out of his hip.
Yeah.
Not only did he run over people, but he was so strong that he ran out of his hip. That's mind-blowing, but nonetheless. We could go and review 30 for 30s, I guess, now.
We should.
Just keep that,
we should.
That going. But
we're not talking about any iron on Moving Iron.
We'll bounce back into that maybe on another show. But so Aaron's with me today. We're going to talk what's going on. Good Christmas. Go down to Desh, the big purple home of the Purple Dragons.
Yes, went to the home of the Purple Dragons, good old Thayer County,
yeah.
Western Thayer County.
Yeah.
And 6.5 hour drive, took 8 to get there.
Okay.
We drove through the I-80 blizzard all the way.
Gotcha. Yep.
It was a good time.
Yep.
But we got there. We had a great time. Great Christmas. Top 5 Christmas ever.
Top 5 Christmas ever.
Top 5 Christmas ever. It was fantastical.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed Christmas with my family, and then they got on a plane and flew back to the ICT, the 316, also known as Wichita, Kansas.
Which they enjoyed more than Christmas with you.
Absolutely. They were like, yes, Dad's gone. This is the best Christmas ever.
Shit, man.
So I'm going to drive back down there and pick them up, and then I will enjoy Christmas with my family back there. So, good times. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to 2020 being over with, man. It's been a long year. Been some crazy things that happen. There's been plenty of setbacks and obstacles and everything else going on, but there has been some silver lining that has come out of 2020. So I guess as you kind of sit back and take a look at the grand spectrum of what's going on there, and obviously the coronavirus is one of the biggest things that came out of 2020, but I guess as you take a look at 2020, Aaron, what are some of the biggest aha moments you had looking back on 2020?
Aha moments?
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, or like, oh shit.
Oh, man. The biggest aha moment, this would be a positive, crops climbing in price at harvest of all times.
Right.
What on earth is that about?
The one time when they should not have been going up. They should be going down, if anything.
Right.
Not even staying the same. Like, they should have been going down.
Correct.
So.
Plus, we had a little, was that this year or last year? We're in that May, June. We had a little bit of spike up.
That was last year.
That was last year? This year just sucked till harvest?
This year was in May and June. I believe corn was like $2.98 that you had to pay someone for it.
Correct.
And then they would let you dump the corn at the elevator.
Right.
So it worked out well. But that during that time frame, that was a kind of a scary time frame. That whole March to June time frame.
Yeah.
Was kind of a where's this going? When's it going to stop type of thing. So yeah, that was definitely a big one there. I think for me, one of mine was looking back on that is with all the stuff that came down the pike and all the stuff that we saw happening was really equipment really never stopped selling.
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
With everything that was going on there, and all the obstacles that were in the way, and all the grain prices the way they were, and those kind of things, did stuff sell as good as it probably could have? Absolutely not. But I mean, you would have thought when corn hit $3 on the board that we wouldn't have sold anything, and actually we were selling some stuff then.
Yeah.
I was shocked by that. I thought we were going to have a long, arduous summer going into harvest, and actually, to be honest with you, I always told people when they would ask me about that, were outside the industry, how's coronavirus affected the ag equipment space, and I said, to be honest with you, if I woke up from a coma and didn't know what was going on, I wouldn't know it any different. I would have known one thing different about what happened in our business comparatively.
Right. I would completely agree with that. As you talk to other dealers across the country, wholesalers, everybody that's in the buying and selling business, we're blessed beyond measure to be in ag because we still got to go.
Right.
Right. Guys don't. Plus, we're in ag. We're not. Most everybody in ag is not by a big urban population center.
Correct.
So, which is funny because at the beginning of Rona, that was the place to be.
Right.
Now all the little towns are worse than the big than the cities.
Yep.
Which would happen with anything.
Right.
I would argue and say, just one point you made, that was it the best it could have been? You said no, probably not. I would say yeah, probably was. For the way crops were at, the pandemic shit, still fighting with China, all that stuff piled together, it was, dare I say, half-ass runaway for everything we were up against.
Yep. I'd agree with that. I think that's probably a good point. I mean, comparatively to what was all there, yeah, you're probably right. It could have been. I mean, you talk about uncertainty. There's plenty of it there. We also had, the government stepped in and put a big bill together and got a lot of pretty big checks out to kind of start covering some of that stuff. But to be honest with you, a lot of those checks at that time were, I hope this is enough to keep things rolling.
Right.
What I mean?
It was spoken for 8 times.
Yeah.
But hey, we got a check.
Yeah. But the funny thing about it too now, as you take a look at what's going on, is because of the money that came in, a lot of guys have tax problems now because that money's all taxable. That
exactly.
It's treated as income.
Thank you, Donald.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Appreciate that, pal.
But I will say, I'm glad you mentioned the Trump bucks thing because I've had 3 different farmers in this month tell me that saved their ass this year.
Yeah,
that made them whole. Now, I shouldn't say save their ass, but it made them whole where they halfway start in this world clean slate. Like oh shit, $6 corn's not here forever. It cured all of those sins for the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. But it also made it where it's kind of okay, this is the world we live in. We're whole. Let's go.
Right.
Yep. And that's huge.
Yeah.
That's worth its weight in gold right there.
Absolutely.
For that aspect of it. Not to, dare I say, go buy shit from John Deere.
Right.
Case IH, New Holland, Agco, everybody. But to be whole, and then, okay, now we're whole. Now we can look at updating our 12 to 14 combine or 12 to 14 8R.
Right.
What have you.
Yep. And I think that's a great point. I think that was probably one of the most underestimated parts of this year till right now, when guys are sitting there talking to their accountants, going like, "Ooh, okay, well you're good now, you're whole, like you said, and now you've got, either you can send back the money that you got back, or you can go spend it." You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's good for everything. You know what I mean? So
But do you think? Okay, like, I don't have any blue flags flying on any of my machinery. But do you think, as the first 100% businessman president we've had, do you think that was part of it? I've been wondering that the last couple weeks.
I don't know. I think
especially knowing that extra income at the end of the year immediately gets flushed back into the business sector. Whether it's prepay seed fertilizer, whether it's machinery, whether it's whatever they can do to get rid of that money and not have to give it back.
Right. I would like to say yes to that.
Say it then.
I think it was more of we're going to pass this bill no matter what because everybody wants to get reelected. And this is if there would have been anyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whomever, that sat back and said, you know what? I feel like this is frivolous right now. I am not going to vote for that. You know what I mean? they would have gotten lynched. Right?
Frivolous.
Yeah.
What about the libertarians?
Yes, even them, especially them,
because we all know there's plenty of them on the Ag Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like that would have been something that would have not made a difference in there. Now. It had Trump got reelected, who knows what this next round would have looked like. They might have went to the wall on a few more things just because of, I don't have anything to worry about. I can't get reelected again, so we're going to do things the way I want them done. I think that would have been a bigger thing for that. But I think, the first round was just we're going to make sure we get reelected. I think that's what that was.
I gotcha.
So
I choose to see that the business aspect was at least some percentage, maybe 1%, but it was there.
Don't get me wrong. The idea is of giving some people money to go out and spend to help circulate.
That's exactly what it's
circulate
for.
the economy. Absolutely. I mean, that was the whole purpose behind that. There wasn't anyone going like, I'm going to take this money now. I'm going to go I'm going to fluff up my 401k.
Right.
I mean, that was.
So I guess that was. If you look at it from the non-ag world, that was a stupid question.
Well, they were just trying to. It's to stimulate the economy. Right. What I call a stimulus bill.
Right.
Right. So.
Oh no shit!
Yeah.
Well, how about that?
Now the dots have connected.
Welcome to freshman civics.
So, a lot of other things happened.
Yeah, that was completely dumb because the people that got their checks in June spent them right away.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what it was.
They got their $1,200 and they were like, "Yeah, let's get some grills." And
sometimes you got to pull your head out of the ag sand and look at the rest of the world.
Sometimes. Well, you got to remember during that time frame when those checks were coming out and those things were happening, what were we selling the most of?
Not toilet paper and Clorox.
That's for sure. That's definitely not something that we were selling a lot of.
Combines.
No, we were selling cuts, mowers.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff.
Right.
All that stuff.
And the industry as a whole had a huge uptick this year. Side-by-sides and four-wheelers.
Yeah. All that
used side-by-side market. Just red hot.
Somebody's like, well, hell, now we got the $1,200. Let's go get that side-by-side we always wanted.
You want to pay the electric bill, or do you want to go get a 2005 Ranger?
I know I'm laid off, but we could take that money and put it to good use.
We could make the down payment on that Ranger and get 5 tanks of gas. Let's do it.
We can just go to the mountains for as long as we want to now. We've got nowhere to go.
Nothing to come home for.
So, yeah, that was a huge segment of the marketplace. But so that kind of leads into, like, when you start thinking about what were the big equipment surprises for 2020, right? For me, the biggest equipment surprise was that coming to fruition of that 2012 through 14 model piece of equipment and starting to watch that mountain grow and what that looks like and watching those inventories grow while on the other side of that, kind of like we talked about last week, watching that under 300 horsepower or under 300 hour combine, under 1,000 hour tractor.
The premium combine.
Yeah. Those things all started to really start to show up where there was a huge lack and where we started seeing an excess of supply, where we started seeing real big holes starting to form in the equipment marketplace, and watching that kind of take off and grow to what we see it today. And to me, that was the biggest surprise that I would have done. And probably the other one we'd already talked about was watching that cut market take off when you think that it wouldn't have, when people weren't 100% for sure what was going to happen with their income.
Yeah.
So this is the part where you throw in what you think you're...
Oh, yeah, I agree with you completely. So that's going to do it for Moving Iron. Thanks for listening to the podcast. No, I forgot about the cut thing because that's not my world. Yeah. But you're exactly right. That's probably number one, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I would say mid-summer auction results were surprising.
Yes, they were.
Late summer were not.
They were, that August.
After we auctioned 7 million combines by August 28th, the writing was on the wall. So
yeah, it was shocking.
You can buy a new pair of Wells Lamont gloves or a 780.
Right.
Which would you prefer?
Right. Yeah. There was, but again, goes back to that whole thing of stuff that brought big money was stuff that we didn't have access to.
Right.
And
low hours.
The other stuff that we had plenty of, and we'd seen sell a million times already.
Say it. Starts with a C. It's just a
commodity.
There you go.
Very much. Just a commodity. So, yeah, it was a big shocking moment. I mean, I think there was the number of machines that we saw sell in August was, to me, was more shocking than anything else. Was that number of, and it wasn't necessarily a lot of tractors that got sold. It was all combines and like 3 heads.
Yeah,
like there weren't even enough heads sold to cover the amount of combines sold.
Right.
So, and that's typically when you have a combine problem, you have a head problem too, right?
Yep.
Typically,
absolutely.
That's typically two things that mirror each other. But I guess watching those two things sell, watching those 3 or 4 larger equipment auctions sell happen. To me, that was one of the biggest moments for 2020 when you started looking at how much values rebounded from, again, of the stuff that was in high demand, right? How those values rebounded during that time frame compared to a year ago. It was a big jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's almost a 10% increase in what those were bringing, maybe even almost a 15% increase. That's what those machines were bringing in August of 20 compared to August of 19.
Yeah.
And if you want to look that up and you want to test me on that, go to tractorzoom.com and go to Iron Comps and get yourself a subscription. Use Moving Iron at checkout, and you'll be able to see that because that's where I got that information from. Just go back and take a look at those two things. So, again, quick commercial on that. If you're in the marketplace of value and equipment and understand what's going on, there's not a better system out there than what you see with Iron Comps and TractorZoom. So check it out.
They're very passionate about the business.
Yep.
Very.
And it's just raw data that's not been filtered through anything, right? It's just they have auction houses that bring it in and dump it off, and it's not something they manufacture themselves. They're getting the data, they're putting it in, and they're kicking it back out in a very easy to use platform. So check it out. Use Moving Iron at checkout, and you'll get yourself a sweet little discount on your Iron Comps.
Right on.
Keep it real, bro.
That's the Moving Iron version of here's your hat and gloves for buying seed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's the same difference.
Here's your Beck's fuel trailer. you get a small percent on a website.
Yep. Yep. All right. So now we've kind of laid out what we saw happen in 20. Kind of some of our big shocking moments for us. Some very high level stuff. 2020 prediction time or 2021 prediction time, and what that looks like. For me, watching what commodity prices are doing right now and watching as things progress across multi-level fronts here. I mean, we're talking the commodity value prices that we see happen right now. I think this morning I got my March alert for March 21 alert for corn. It was like 465 or something like that on the board, if I remember right. I could be telling you a lie, but March 21, 465 and a half as of the mid-morning alert. So I guess you take a look what's happening there. Going with soybeans. Soybeans, are when it's topsy-turvy. One day they lose 14 cents, the next day they're up 22, and irregardless of how many shipments of soybeans we got wherever, I mean, there's just all kinds of craziness happening there. But volatility in the market is something we've talked about on Moving Iron Podcast Markets with Chip and Sean. If you listen to those guys, when we're on, they're going to tell you the same thing. So as I look at what's happened with commodity prices, I take a look at what's happened with this drought situation. that's getting stronger and stronger in South America. The drought situation that's getting more prevalent in the U.S. It's still wintertime here, so I'm not going to jump on the drought train yet. But we need some snow, we need some subsoil moisture, those kind of things to start making their way in there. But I guess as you take a look at all these things that are happening, I do feel like 21 is going to be a year that a lot of equipment gets shuffled around. A lot of guys are going to updating. A lot of guys are going to looking at updating this, that, or the other thing. But there's going to be a lot of caution in that, in those buying habits and what they're doing. They might not go out and buy that new planter. They might go do a precision thing, or they might do a John Deere upgrade kit on their older planter. Those kind of things are going to start playing into factors here, and the on-farm income is going to be higher than it's been in the past 7 years. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this 2012 through 14 model stuff really starts to play out in 21. I think that's when we're going to see, if we see anything, this is the year 21, 22 is when we're going to see what happens with that equipment, and where does that go, and how does that start shaping what we start seeing happening with the used equipment marketplace, and how does that stuff start rolling into auctions, and what's that look like?
Well, I think the best way to probably do that is, as you trade for 12s and 14s, I realize scales cost too much, so not everybody's going to jump on board with that. But when you write your purchase order, you just leave that trade-in blank, send it straight to auction time, and then you backfill that after it sells. Be like, oh, here's what your tractor brought. Here's what your combine brought.
Right. Could be like when you go to a fancy restaurant and you want to get the lobster, but it says market price, so you're not for sure exactly what you're paying.
Whose
for.
market? Is it my market?
What market price is that?
Because at my market, it's cheaper than hamburger, but, it is what it is.
Market price, what's that mean?
It's also not reach in the water and grab it, because we're not exactly by water.
Right.
A couple things for 21. New supplies are going to be, they're already
tight.
They're beyond god-awful tight for the entire 21 year.
Industry hole.
Industry hole, regardless of color. Because nobody saw the uptick coming, or they weren't ready for it, I should say.
Well, I'm sure a lot of that, too, was they have to put their still order in, I'm guessing, 3 years ago to lock in some pricing or whatever.
Right. Right. And then, so that is going to really bump up our third favorite thing to talk about on this podcast. Not the 12s and 14s, not planners, but the late model low hourd.
Late and low, baby.
Late and low. Here for the win. I think that's going to be a big push. A bigger push than it has been.
Something like I'm thinking like 2009, 2010?
No, I'm thinking...
Or what are you thinking?
I'm thinking more like... I wish it was 9 or 10. I think it's going to be more of a... Well, it's a combo, quite honestly. I think you're going to have the demand of 14.
Okay. All right.
Where, we better not buy the new, but we still want to trade, so we need that 200, 300 hour
sure
rig.
This thing's going to go.
Right. And I think that's exactly where we're at.
Okay.
We could, by June, we could be 2010 part 2, or 2011, a decade later. We'll even get shirts made that say that. With a whole shit long line of used combines on the lot that have very little value. Or this thing could stop and fall out of bed. If it does that, it'll be because of all the crazy weather stuff that's going to happen, which you've heard on the Moving Iron podcast.
On the markets.
With
Chip Nelliger and
not with
Sean Heck.
Not with a dumbass equipment guy like me, but the smart people.
Yeah.
So I could see that happening either way. The drought thing, me personally, being a dryland grass hay guy, we are past drought.
Right.
We are a complete and total nightmare in the western part of the U.S. Like, as you pull up Ag Day, free plug, guys, and they show that drought monitor every morning,
right.
We are almost black. Like, we've gone from yellow to orange to red to maroon, and now they're like, well, just everything east of the west of the Mississippi.
Yep.
You guys are hosed. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. I mean, what's the favorite saying I've heard a million guys say is, "I love a drought when it's on somebody else's farm,"
right?
You know, type of thing. And I think that's the mentality that we're going to have here.
Which we got to live in 12,
right?
When the central and eastern corn belt burnt up to nothing, we were all right.
Yeah.
Even outside of the pivots, we got more rain than those guys.
Actually, we got like 2.5 times the amount of rain we normally did, which is like 3 inches.
Did we back then?
Yeah, oh yeah. That was one of my first years out here, and the bluff stayed lush and green all the way to like August, which is way uncommon.
Right, and so did the hills.
Yeah,
all the sand hills were green till frost.
I was like, this isn't a desert.
Yeah,
this is a lush playground of happiness out here.
No shit.
And then the next year was the desert. I'm like, wow, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. This is what you meant.
I'm
okay.
tracking. This makes sense.
Dirt just blowing every day from June to, or from January to June.
Why is everything so gritty?
Yeah. Do you dust your house? No, there is no point.
Yeah, for some people the Dust Bowl stopped.
Right.
But no, it's I would say as the drought gets worse, and if it does continue to get worse, we do continue down that path, which we're in a La Nina year, so obviously that's one of those years one of those things that do kind of stimulate a drought, for lack of a better term. Yeah, we're gonna see some issues pop up that are going to be drought related, that are going to drive prices up, right? Lack of supply. And what we're seeing now is not only is there going to be a drought situation possibly here in the U.S. that's developing, but down in Brazil too. Right. So this is the crop that typically they're selling off in January and February because we're done. Right. This is typically the crop they sell. Right. So with that being said, if there's an issue, a crop production issue in South America, which sounds like there's a worse crop production issue in Argentina than there is in Brazil.
Which, no offense, but we hope for annually.
Right. They have we're kind of setting that up to have a big thing. So
yeah.
See what happens.
Basically, it's going to be a year. If you got it, right on.
Right.
But you might not have anything.
Right. Yep. So it's going to be a tight year. And I think your analogy of 2014 was spot on. I mean,
whoa!
It doesn't happen very often, folks.
Slow clap. Right on. There we go.
But I mean, that's a great analogy, because in 2014, people were still being like, it's going to come back, right? It's going to come back, or I can't. I mean, how far down could it possibly go? You know, we got to feed the world thing, and we got to $3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at. And I think that the 2014 there was that cautiousness that was going on, of that idea of like, well, kind of see what some of the cards are being dealt already, some things are being laid out there already, that kind of scares us a little bit. But you know, we've always, last 3 or 4 years, we've kind of always done it this way, and it's worked out well for us. So we'll try it one more time, see what happens. And for some folks, it was the last time they ever did it was in 14.
Yeah. You know, I would also say this, which we don't do a lot, but hats off to all the producers who made it through that entire 5, 6, 7 years of shit,
right?
Of total shit, and some maintained, some got bigger.
Yeah,
you know. Hats off to those guys, because it's not like they're just, we'll take that on. I mean, every day is a damn struggle,
right?
But you live through it. You got better. You got bigger.
Yeah.
You know, that's damn impressive.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. It's one of those, iron sharpened
because
things.
just like you said, well, how low is it going to go? Well, $3 we found out, right? $3 corn in 2019 is not like $3 corn in 03.
Right.
Vastly different input prices to get there.
Exactly.
Of course, you got a little bushel variance too,
right?
But not like the difference in inputs.
Right.
Oh man.
Yep. So no, I think I'm very optimistic about 21, 22, and 23 as to what we're going to see as far as values go and what that looks like. I am very excited to see what happens with that glut of equipment that's going to be there. That 12, 13, 14, maybe 15 to some extent. Kind of what does that look like, and how is that going to play out? That's going to be my equipment. As far as I'm concerned, the equipment story for 21 is how does that segment play out? What does that look like?
So, as a strictly used equipment guy only, like hurry up and dump this, and then all of a sudden you went from 10 to 50 of those to hurry up and dump, and every day the price gets lower and lower and lower. What you're saying is get better at helping on the podcast, because that could be a full-time job.
Yeah. That's the thing about the podcast too, that it pays so well.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
It's shocking.
Fat stacks of cash.
Yep. Fat stacks everywhere you look.
If you pile all them pennies up, you can make a really tall tower.
Yeah, that's the idea that's not going to be an issue, and people aren't paying attention to that, and they're ignoring that kind of stuff. To me, is quite frankly, it's just I don't know how you cannot do that.
Right.
I don't know how you cannot pay attention to that.
No, you have to
see that
it's coming. I won't disagree with you on that. It's coming.
Yep. So
now, I do have a question. You mentioned 21, 22, 23. But you stopped. What do you see happening in 24?
What do I see happening in 24?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this before the podcast. So, Aaron and I just we've talked about this bet a lot on here, and kind of tongue in cheek, more of an inside joke than anything else. But when I came back out here and started working again in the summer of, was it 18 or 17? 17. Summer of 17, I made a bet there that in 5 years that we would have a fully autonomous vehicle that we would be taking in on trade, right? So we're 3 years into that, and possibly I could have been ahead of my time there, and that
snap
that maybe the 22 time frame might not be the right time, but I think 23, 24 we will have that opportunity to see that. I think as you take a look at what's going on with that, whatever the first autonomous vehicle looks like that's truly a large ag production machine, will absolutely have a cab on it. I'm not saying it's going to be a cabless tractor, but what I'm saying is that it will have the technology in it to do something fully autonomous. And my prediction right now is that in 24 that technology is available in some form, whatever that looks like. But my guess is that 2024 we have a used machine on our lot that is fully capable of being a fully autonomous, unmanned piece of farm equipment that's working in the field by itself, that you can jump in and drive if you need to. That's my prediction. Long term.
You didn't say a thing about the road.
About the road, what do you mean?
How do you get it to the field?
Like the movie The Road?
No. How do you get
it? Scary.
How do you get your autonomous tractor to the field?
Well, you're going to do the same thing. Like you're going to haul it over there on a trailer. You're going to do whatever you do. The idea of a machine actually driving itself to from point A to point B, that's a long ways down the road. That's
so
years.
full autonomy. That's a ways down the road, he says.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's not fully autonomous. Is doing it in the field, working by itself without anybody controlling it. It's doing it all by itself.
Still have to get it there. That's not fully autonomous.
Well, the truck that drives it there will be fully autonomous.
I know. I just had to give you shit. The best part of this whole bet is we make it sound like we have $1,000 on this.
Right.
Yeah, we're betting like $25 lunch.
Yeah.
On this deal.
Yeah, we're
but
metal large.
The bragging rights is priceless.
It is. That's really what you're.
Which,
yeah.
Just to be clear, there's a lot of bricks in my bragging rights wall right now. You got that sumbitch half built, so I'm just gonna sit here and relax.
We'll see. We will definitely see. Faux show. All right.
When he says I might have been a little bit ahead of myself,
but I think if I'm ahead of myself, I'm ahead of myself by a year.
That's code word for you're right, Aaron. I was wrong.
Yeah. Well, I was guessing, and if I'm wrong by a year or two.
But still wrong.
Not a decade.
Still wrong.
Maybe to some extent. Maybe.
You got 2 years to sell somebody full autonomy and trade it in. Hurry.
Right on. So what else? What else is on your mind?
Quite a few customers listen to this, so I'd like to throw this out there. Thank you, everybody, for your business through the year. Thanks for listening to this, and it's truly probably the best ag equipment podcast out there, bar none. And I say that unbiased, believe it or not. Yeah, I mean it's been a year for damn sure. Stuff sold better than I thought. Some stuff kind of fell more than I thought, which I'm pretty bleak forecaster. So that's not a cool thing.
Right.
But, by and large, it's been a hell of a good year, quite honestly.
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, I'd echo that. I appreciate everyone that listens to this podcast. I appreciate all the people that helped me do this stuff, like Aaron.
You're welcome.
I've had a lot of guests on, and there's a lot of people that I want to thank. I want to thank Chip Nelliger. I want to thank Rich Poston. I want to thank Sean Hackett. I want to thank Glenn Birnbaum. All these guys that are on here that contribute to this thing, and think that we've done 200 of these podcasts, which I think total I've put out something like 520 some odd podcasts since this started in 2017-ish, something like that. So it's been a fun ride. I've enjoyed all of it, and I can't thank you guys enough for
2016.
2016, okay, 2016. That's it's been a fun journey. So. What?
Next year, 5-year anniversary.
Oh, yeah. It's the nickel anniversary.
Woohoo!
So I looking forward to see what 21 brings, and I do look forward to putting out more of these podcasts as time goes on. So, anything else you want to throw out there?
I can't think of nothing, man.
All right. Well, with that, I am Casey Seymour with Aaron Fintel. Let's go into some iron, folks. Out.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving